Welcome back to Real Shit, where we like to talk real shit all day, every day, all for the love of movies and sometimes TV. I am Joe, and today I'm going to be talking about the misrepresentation of Captain James T Kirk. Sounds a little bit like a 90s R&B album, but we're going to go with it anyway. Before I get into it though, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Any little bit of support would be greatly appreciated. Without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. So, when I started this little journey to try to understand more about Star Trek, the characters, the world, the universe, basically my sole intention was to do reviews. But today, while I was watching the original series, I came to a bit of an epiphany, and I thought, after posing my thoughts on Twitter, I thought it might be a good topic for a video, so I'm going to run with it and see how it goes. And I may do more of these if I have more random thoughts about Star Trek throughout the course of watching it. So, my epiphany, as I was halfway through season 1 of the original series, was basically that Captain Kirk is not the person that I expected him to be. And what do I mean by that? So, sometimes when you're around people who know a lot about something, but you don't, and they're explaining it or they're interpreting it through their eyes, so you get an image built in your head of what you think it is without having to experience it yourself. Well, that was basically my relationship with Captain Kirk. He's been probably the subject of more parodies than any other fictional character that I can think of. I mean, everything from Eddie Murphy's Delirious to Family Guy to Ace Ventura Pet Detective. Everybody and their grandmother pretty much has probably attempted to do an imitation of Captain Kirk at one time or another. Everyone knows William Shatner's speech patterns. If you've never even seen a Star Trek episode, you know how William Shatner or Kirk talks in the series. So it's become a part of his character. In my mind, because of the exaggerated imitations that are constantly put forth of him, James T Kirk was going to be more of a comedic character. He was going to be over the top. He was going to be difficult for me to take seriously. And quite frankly, I just assumed he was going to be poorly acted. Let me tell you, as a noob and as someone who is very much into the journey that I'm taking with Star Trek right now, I was completely wrong about all that, and anyone who thinks so is also wrong. James T Kirk, in my personal opinion, is the victim of satire because he's been constantly misrepresented in popular culture for a long time now. The real Captain Kirk, if you actually watch the show like I have now, you will come to know as being cool, as being suave. He's a man's man. He's a womanizer at times. He oozes confidence, whether it be with his interactions with people, his confrontations, or even his facial expressions. He's focused, he's determined, he's a man who's not afraid to take chances. He's definitely someone who is forced to face adversity on a weekly basis, literally, and handles it all in stride. He's just a resilient character, and I'm here to tell you that Captain Kirk is no joke, regardless of all the jokes that there are about him. I did some research because I was a little bit curious about how other people, I guess, felt about Captain Kirk. And I came across an interview with Quentin Tarantino. Now, if you don't know, Quentin Tarantino is probably my favorite director of all time. I hold his opinion very high about all movies, TV, whatever he has an opinion on. I mean, if he says that he likes something, I'll watch it. So I came across this interview that he was doing, and they're basically asking him about Star Trek because he was rumored to actually direct a Star Trek movie at one time, which I don't think is happening now, which is kind of a shame, to be honest, but that's a topic for a different video. So they were asking him about it, and he basically said that the reason he likes Star Trek so much is because of William Shatner. Because of William Shatner as Captain Kirk. His performance as Captain Kirk is what connects him to the series, what got him interested, and what made him fall in love with Star Trek. He even goes on and as far to say that William Shatner's performance is basically one of the single greatest performance in episodic television history. Now that's his words, not mine, but it's high praise coming from probably one of the best directors of all time who has worked with some of the greatest actors of all time. So there has to be something to this, right? Like, it's not. He's clearly been misrepresented if one of the greatest directors of all time is coming out and saying that it's one of the best performances he's ever seen in a TV show. So I'm here to tell you now, and this is just me from my own experience now, that Shatner's acting is not bad. It's memorable, and a lot of people take his over-the-top memorable performance as being bad, but it's not really. And I'll give you an example of why that's not true. Because take The Shining, for instance. Jack Nicholson, when Steven Spielberg first saw The Shining, he told Stanley Kubrick that Jack Nicholson's performance was too over the top and he didn't like the movie because of it. Stanley Kubrick responded to Steven Spielberg and said that Jack's performance is over the top. It's memorable, and that's why it's a great performance. You're going to remember it after you leave the theater. And that completely changed Steven Spielberg's perception of that character and of that performance, and now it's one of his favorite movies. So I feel like the same thing has happened with Shatner's performance. Not that I'm putting him on the level necessarily with Jack Nicholson, but he's doing such a good job because his over-the-top performance is memorable. Like, everyone knows Captain Kirk because of his performance. It's become an iconic portrayal of a character. He is synonymous with that character to the point where people don't even want him to be recast, which they're talking about again now. Like, no one else can play this character but William Shatner. And that to me means that he has done what he's supposed to do as an actor, and that's make you not forget his performance and put his stamp on it and make it very difficult for anyone to follow in his footsteps. And it's time people recognize it, to be honest. You can't be fooled by the jokes about his speech patterns, because another example I have for you is it's the same thing that people do with Christian Bale's Batman voice. Like, they use that as a negative towards him, but everything else around it, whether you like the voice or not, that's not a debate. But everything else around it is a great performance. But everyone seems to focus on his voice and treat it as a negative. I feel like they do the same thing with Shatner. Like, everything around it is great, but they tend to focus on his, I guess, speech patterns or his, at times where he can be a little over the top. But to be quite honest, if you can't just focus on that. You have to focus on the whole body of work. And that's where people like me, who have never seen Star Trek until recently, that's where we get hung up, because we get it in our minds that he's just over the top all the time, that he's just overacting and that he sounds ridiculous. But that's not the case. He's actually pulling off something really special if you actually sit down and give the whole performance a chance. You got to watch it in its entirety and not just the little parodies that people have or little snippets here and there. So basically what I'm saying is that people definitely need to, I guess, give more respect to William Shatner's performance as Captain Kirk. It took me a handful of episodes and 2 movies to erase the thought of what I thought was Captain Kirk in my mind. But now I'm a huge fan because I actually know the real Captain Kirk. I feel like I'm more familiar with the character. And it's a character that I'm looking forward to exploring even further as I continue my journey watching all this new Star Trek stuff that I've never given a chance to before. So that's my thoughts pretty much on why I think Captain Kirk has been misrepresented in popular culture. Let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Am I on to something here? Am I reading too much into it? Yeah, just let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time for another review. So I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching.